Okay, and we're gonna spotlight you, Missy. Go for it, Mary. Okay, hold on, hold on, hold on. Oh, happy, happy. Okay, here we go. Hold on.
See, Mary's helping me. Let's see. I am, was it feeling? Right? No, tired. If you did that one. That's good. Let's see. I work for, oh wow, Mary.
Disabilities.
DSNM.
Yeah.
Cheat. Let's see. You. Hey.
Okay, go.
Yeah.
My name?
Yep, your name. My name is.
My name is. No. My name is.
Work, work. That one's help. Help, work.
Help.
Yes, yes. Marie's asking for help.
Okay. I no
Work.
work.
Yep. Two S hand shapes. Two S's like this. And you
Two.
knock them together like this.
Oh, okay. I work.
Yep.
Ray. How do you
RACHEL. Project Rachel.
can we do our identifying name?
I was just saying to Julia, there's no sign for your office. Sorry, we have to spell it.
Can we create one?
The only thing is PR means Paula's job. Hold on.
P.
Not PRN.
Okay, Rachel.
Rachel.
RACHEL. Oh,
Would you like to ask, how are you?
no, it's how are you
Yay,
Jew.
throw your boss under the bus. Yeah. Yeah. Fine.
My name is J U
You.
A. I work
Mhm, mhm.
for
Yep. For.
project. I don't know how to spell that. I don't know how all the letters. P.
I know it's not fair to you guys because you have to spell the whole thing. So for now, just say PR, but really that is Paula's.
How about PRM?
Oh, you can do that. PRM, Project Rachel Ministry. PRM. PRM.
Okay.
Perfect.
I would try, but I don't remember the P.
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 So your thumb is on your middle knuckle of your middle finger. Put your thumb on the middle knuckle of your middle finger. So you need 3 fingers. Put your thumb on that middle knuckle of your middle finger. This one, tall guy, this guy. There we go. And then drop your wrist. P.
Oh, okay. P. R.
R. Like fingers crossed.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, you can throw it to Laureen.
How are you?
How are you? Laureen. That's her name sign. Laureen. All right, let's put her in trouble here. There we go. All right. Lousy. Lousy. I'm tired, but that's okay. Really, I'm fine. I'm fine. I work for Deaf Ministry. And today I wanted to explain a little bit about deaf identity to you. Mary has asked me to explain some things about deaf identity that might be helpful for you. Basically, there are just a few points that I'd like to make, and then we can go into a little bit deeper about what a deaf person is, how they see their self-identity. The word deaf, D-E-A-F, with a small d, it's important that you know that there's a lowercase d and a capital D. If you use that lowercase d, that's more of a general description of an etiology, someone that has a hearing loss with the lowercase d. But a person with a capital D would be a person who considers themselves part of deaf culture, part of a community, identifies themselves and is describing themselves as that. That's a capital D. So they're in the deaf community, and it has to do with the culture. It's related to their culture. I just wanted to clarify that as part of deaf identity in general when you're writing about deaf persons. If you're writing, for example, related with a hearing issue or etiology, it would be one thing. Do you have any questions about that before I go on? Are there questions? No? Okay. Secondly, for people who are hard of hearing, it's condensed into HH, hard of hearing. For those who maybe have a mild or moderate loss that can hear some, maybe their speech is clear. Maybe they were born hearing and had a progressive loss, but they have very good clear speech. So they might have been born and when they were very young, they lost their speech very young and it's not clear. Or it could be late onset deafened. That means an adult who becomes deaf, who already had impeccable speech and is able to both speak and sign with great clarity. So many people think, oh, you speak well, that must mean you can hear, but that's not always the case. You need to double check just to make sure. Did they lose their hearing later on? Are they relying on a hearing aid or a cochlear implant? A CI is what they're called, and this is the sign. That's the sign. Many people sign two different signs for CI. One is like this because of where it's connected, or another one is like this. A cochlear implant often has a very negative connotation. There are many deaf people who are not in favor of CIs because it's more focused on the pathology of deafness and not preserving the integrity of the culture related with deafness. So to be polite, it's more polite to say CI than to use a sign that might have a negative connotation. For hard of hearing persons and late and deafened persons in that group, they're divided really between those who accept their hearing loss and are entrenched in the deaf community. They might still be hard of hearing, but they really are more part of the deaf cultural community, or those that never really do accept that. Do you ever watch The Bachelor? It's a TV program. Recently on the show, they had a group of women and one of them was deaf. And they thought, oh, well, she's deaf, but she can sign, yes, but she was more of a hearing culture than a deaf culture. So she wasn't really entrenched into the deaf community. That's very different. She wasn't part of deaf culture. Maybe she would be able to sign with members of the deaf community, but she did not associate herself or identify herself as part of that culture. Please feel free to interrupt if you have any questions. I have a few more points and then I'm out of it and you guys can go on with your signing. There's been a development of 4 culturally deaf identity signs. A hearing identity within the deaf community, so that would be part of it. A marginal identity, so culturally, marginally, you're within or without the culture. A deaf identity, and someone who is entrenched in the community. And someone else might be bicultural. They might function perfectly well and equally comfortable in both the hearing and the deaf world. I sign fast. You'll learn that. My ASL is much shorter than English. So Mary talks a lot more than I sign. That's why you're thinking, why does she keep going? Mary, blah, blah, blah. So when I sign, you'll notice that ASL might be shorter than the English that is needed to put the clothing on the ASL language. That first section that we talked about, a hearing person who is not in the deaf world. So maybe they have no link or no connection at all with the deaf community. Most folks that would define most hearing people. Maybe that person can speak and can understand a little bit of deaf culture. Maybe they can read lips. Let me tell you though, really about 25 to 40% of deaf persons who read lips are filling in. The rest of it is going right over our heads. We might nod and you think we know what you're saying, but we're making a lot of assumptions. Sometimes you chat and we have to ask questions and you think that person, the deaf person, understood, and then you ask them a question and you think, no, they didn't understand it. They get about 25 to 40%. Oh, it's nice when she freezes because then I can catch up. She's frozen. Okay, the second area would be a person, she's really freezing, guys. Would be a person, she's really freezing. It's freezing. Is it okay now? It's freezing. Is it The second person might be someone that can interact with both communities or either culture. Someone who has a deaf identity, who is entrenched within the deaf community, would be that third category. They would embrace their deaf culture. They're very comfortable, and within hearing culture, they would not be as comfortable. And then the fourth category, someone who is bicultural, means that they could easily entrench themselves in either culture and feel equally as comfortable. Their identity is as equally as comfortable with the deaf world and with the hearing world, either one. Opposed to a person who would identify as solely deaf, would only be comfortable in the deaf world and not the hearing world. We're a little freezy. Hold on one second. I'm gonna go freezy. I'm gonna remove the spotlight so we can all see one another. It did freeze a little bit, but I wanted to open it. Do you have a question? Did something not make sense? Do you have a question that you want to ask Laureen about deaf identity and what that means? There's one thing that Laureen did not talk about. I'm gonna ask her to expand a little bit about, oh, she's shaking her head. She might be freezing. About what is a coda. Laureen, can you see me? She's saying it's freezing. Just another aspect of deaf culture are codas. That would be me. So if you are a child of a deaf adult, someone who lived in both cultures growing up, going back and forth, that's called a coda. Back and forth of a deaf adult, CODA. Typically those children, Laureen's kids, they can just hop back and forth with equal ease because you kind of grew up bilingual. You didn't learn the language later. Okay. Laureen, do you want to add anything about codas? She's still freezing. It's freezing. It must be my internet. I'm sorry. Laureen's saying it must be my internet. Sorry for the technical problem. Sorry for that. We will get Laureen back another time to talk with us about deaf culture and identity. We'll try this again next week and see if we have a better connection next week. Laureen's saying yes. Laureen's saying yes. So, to be continued, Laureen said. To be continued. For Paula, we have to make sure she can understand what you will find in the chat box. I have put the link to our playlist. So if you want to review any vocabulary, look back at how to make a letter. We've gone through the ABCs and we've had some vocabulary already. Part of that vocabulary were all of the PMSC offices: family life, CYO, disabilities, deafness, so you'll find all those signs, but not Paula's office. So sorry, Paula. Your office is communications, 2 C's, a C with both hands, and they go back and forth and alternate like the way you talk, communication, back and forth, back and forth. So that's how you sign your department, communications, just so Paula feels part of the team here. So there we go. There we go. Okay, what we have next for today is to run through the vocabulary for this week. So did you all have a chance to watch the video we posted on Monday? So are you ready to practice it together, Sally? Yes, you are, Sally. You are so excited. What we have today are deaf and signing and deafness, anything having to do with that. So we're going to go through the pages, and then we're going to do one more practice session and wrap it up for the day. Okay? So we're going to start with chapter 4. It's on page 92 of the book. Okay? So our first sentence is, I learn. Something is on the page and you're taking it off the page and putting it in your mind. Learn, sign, language. So sign are 2 index fingers that go around and 2 L's that come apart. Language. Sign language. I learn sign language. Okay, here's your favorite sentence. Sign slow, please. I've already heard a lot of feedback. Laureen signs too fast. But that's what you will see, right? So if we really fake it for you guys and make it really slow, you'll never understand anything in the real world. So we're going to sign at the right speed for you. Sign slow. So your passive hand is palm down. Your dominant hand is palm down, and you pull one on top of the other. Slow. Slow. Okay. Again, please. So if you want something repeated, your passive hand is in a B hand shape with your palm to the side, and your dominant hand in a B hand shape lands in the middle of your palm. Again. Again, please. Please. Please helps. Always helps when you say please. Where's our friend Julia? I can't finger spell well.
Again.
You get the letters. Oh, and Mary Fava likes to say that she's already like behind because she's missing a finger. No excuse, Missy.
I'm going left-handed as my dominant instead of my right. Because I can't do my M. That's an M. That's
Well,
an
you'll
N.
always have an N. You will never be able to say M.
I know.
That hand.
I can't type L's, O's, and periods either, but that's another story.
We all have our struggles, Mary.
I
Okay.
know. Finger spell.
I can't. Can. 2 S's that just drop down. Can't. 2 pointer fingers that cross each other. Can't. I can't finger spell well. I can finger spell, but I can't read it well. So I can finger spell, but I can't read it. Here's your book. Here's your eyes looking at the book. Read. Your two eyes are looking at the book. Read. Okay? You sign fast. So sign fast. I don't understand. So you're using your face to create the negative. I understand. I don't understand. So you could sign, I don't understand, don't. But you don't have to because your face shows the negative. I don't understand. So understand is like a light bulb went off. Oh, understand? I don't understand. Okay. Would you write it down, please? That's an important one to know. Just write it down. Here's your book, your paper, your whatever it is. Now it's down and you're writing. Write it down, please. So if Father Min is signing away and you're like, whoa, 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 you can say, write it down, please. And I promise you, he will write it down in Korean or English. I don't know.
Great.
It's a mystery. We'll find out.
Are you going to teach us Korean next?
I think Father Min will teach us some Korean. He has beautiful handwriting and does art with the characters. So it's beautiful to see. How do you sign that? How? Remember for how are you? Your fingers are fingertips down and you turn your wrist so it's fingertips up. How do you sign? So how do you sign elephant? Elephant for the trunk. Elephant. Elephant. There's no sign for that. You have to finger spell it. That's the next one. So there's no sign. Sign, nothing. Finger spell. Must. So if you're going to change it to ASL, like Laureen was saying, I signed something in ASL and it's short, but Mary has to change it into English, it's longer. That's why maybe when she signs, it's brief, but my spoken language takes longer because the English is different. So you would sign have nothing, finger spell must. Means there's no sign for that, you have to finger spell it. Okay. So now when you see me voicing at meetings or something, you can say, oh, I know now her brain's really working. She's not just hanging out, doing nothing. What does that mean? Mean what? Mean, here's your B hand shape. You have a V hand shape. You almost stick yourself like you would with a fork and then twist it, but don't really do that, it would hurt. Mean. Mean. Mean what? I think Sally really likes the sign for what. She gets right into it. What? Are you deaf? Deaf you? Remember we talked about all the WH questions, who, what, where, when, why, how, all up, your eyebrows go up. So deaf means are you deaf? Okay, there are two ways to sign deaf. You touch your ear and you touch your chin. It has a little bit of a negative connotation because it means you can't hear and you can't speak. And that's not necessarily true, but that's where the sign comes from. Can't hear, can't speak. deaf. Many deaf people rather deaf. Ears closed.
Yeah, okay.
Deaf. So you'll see Laureen always says deaf. She never signs deaf because it does have like it's a label and it's a stereotype. Not all people who can't hear can't speak and vice versa. So it does have a negative connotation, meaning, connotation. See what I did there? See that? I'm not deaf, I'm hearing. Deaf, not can. Deaf,
Deaf,
not speak,
speak.
can. When I was growing up, many people would assume I was deaf because I'd be signing away with my dad and people would just assume, oh, next generation. And I'd have to say over and over, no, I'm hearing. Oh, we have to go over the word for hearing. That's next. Almost next. Hearing, like speak, you can talk. Speak, hearing. That's where it comes from. Being able to use your speech, hearing. Hearing. I'm hearing. Hearing. Hard of hearing. Laureen was talking about hard of hearing. HH. Hard of hearing. Me. Okay. Do you use a hearing aid? Hearing aid? Have you? Hearing aid? You know what they look like? You know the kinds that rest on the back of your ear? That's where it comes from. Hearing aid? Have you? Okay. Can you read lips? And I'll repeat what Laureen said because I think that's really important. Can you read lips? Lip read? Can you? Lip read? There's your read again. Read. Now you're reading somebody's lips. Read. Can you? And I'm not sure, I know she was freezing, but what Laureen was saying is no matter how proficient you are at reading lips, you're gonna get 25 to 40% period. The rest you're filling in on what would make sense or guessing. So lip reading is not 100%. A really proficient lip reader catches 25 to 40% and fills in the rest. That's a lot. I speak a little. Speak little. Speak little. Laureen can make herself known very clearly. You know, Rachel, if you want to share tales from inner office, but Laureen will be in her office singing away to herself. She does it all the time. So she's pretty confident about using her voice. She's very confident. Half the time we have no idea what she's saying and she likes that. But Father Min does not use his voice at all. I've only heard him laugh. That's it. Like he doesn't even call out to get your attention. He'll flick the lights, he'll stamp his foot, but he doesn't use his voice at all for anything. I want to visit the club for deaf people. So you'd spell it, club, want,
Page.
visit me.
You skipped a page.
Oh, I skipped a page, sorry, Mayor.
Like, wait a minute.
Oh, how did you lose your hearing? Thank you, Mary. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I did, they stuck, it was stuck. It's stuck. Page was stuck. Okay. How did you lose your hearing? Hearing loss? How? Now, remember, there are times that it's appropriate to be polite. That might not be an appropriate question for a work environment. I wouldn't run up to Father Min and say, "Que pasa? Why are you deaf?" I mean, I'd get to know him a little first. Yeah, just in asking those personal questions. How old were you when you became deaf? Became deaf, old, you, old. It's an O hand shape on your chin. Think about a beard. When someone is old and wise, they have a long beard. That's where it comes from, old. Because if you're older, you're old enough to have grown a beard. Old, old. I was born deaf. Born, arrive, born, deaf. Born, deaf. Me. Are your parents deaf? Parents, mom, dad, mother, father, deaf? Mother, father, deaf? So me, mother deaf? Nope. Father deaf? Yep. Yep. So it'd be different, right? Now, may I visit the deaf club, Mary Bava?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that the pages were stuck. I want to visit the club for deaf people. Club, visit, want me. Visit, think about when you go somewhere, you see something, right? You see something, this hand shape, see? Use two of them and you make a circle. Visit. You're seeing, 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 seeing a lot. That's where the sign comes from. You're seeing, seeing, seeing. Visit. Visit. Want. That's something, remember we talked about want last week. You pull it towards yourself. You want something, you pull it towards yourself. You don't want it, you push it away. Don't want, want. So visit, want. The deaf club culturally is a very important part of the deaf community. You know, on H Street, we have a deaf Starbucks. So a lot of the deaf all go to the deaf Starbucks, Starbucks. Starbucks is another sign for the curly hair. Starbucks,
Mhm.
Starbucks or Starbucks. That's what it used to look like on the old cups. That's where that came from. Starbucks. So there's a deaf Starbucks on H Street. Streetcar, the pub in Hyattsville, all deaf. How many people have gone down there for a beer? Mary, have you never gone? Because it's pretty close. Have you ever gone? No? That's owned by some friends that graduated from Gallaudet with us. So that's a very fun place for the deaf community because the staff all sign, people that go there all sign, so you feel very comfortable when you're there. I enjoy TV with captions. TV, captions, that means like the words that go across, that's where it comes from. Captions, enjoy, enjoy. I saw a captioned film last night. Last, past tense, so you're going backwards. Last night. Remember we talked about morning, noon, afternoon, night. It's all about the horizon, sun coming up, sun at its highest point, going down in the afternoon and resting on the horizon at night. So last, you're going backwards. Last night, captioned, movie, I saw. Last night, captioned movie, saw. Did you go to a residential school for deaf children? Interesting. The sign for a residential school is institution. Isn't that interesting? So a lot of our spoken vocabulary goes back to experiences that might have had a label that was negative, and it's the same with signs. So some of our signs that we just kind of accept and we don't even think about where they came from, if you think about the origins, you're kind of, whoa, That's not very nice. Institution, 2 I's. Your dominant hand, your passive hand, your pinky is down. Your dominant hand comes on top. Institution. School for the deaf, go before you. Did you go to a school for the deaf? School for the deaf, residential school, school for the deaf. Go before you. Here's a sign for school. School is like the teacher clapping her hands to get your attention. School, that's where it comes from. School. I went to a school for hearing children. So hearing school, me go. Hearing school. Gallaudet was the first college for deaf people. Whoop, whoop. Gallaudet, that comes from his glasses. Thomas Minor Gallaudet wore glasses. Gallaudet. Gallaudet first. So here, up, your thumb is up and you're pointing to your thumb. First, college, higher education. This is school. College goes up. Higher education. College for the deaf. For the deaf. Many deaf students go to hearing colleges. So many deaf learn student. So you're a student, you're a learner. So we learned the sign for learn. Now a student is a person that learns. You're learning and an agent sign, person. So maybe you are a teacher. It would be the same thing. Teach, person. Okay, so that agent sign just means you're a person, a student. Go to hearing college. So many deaf students enter hearing college. Many deaf students go hearing college. And here's one that's famous for us this week. Gallaudet University. Gallaudet is in Washington, D.C. Here's George Washington's, what are those things called on a general's?
Shoulder boards. Shoulder boards
or emmets or you know what I mean?
Epaulets. Is it epaulets?
Epaulets. Oh, Mary, I think that's on your shoulder. That's where it starts as a W on your shoulder because George Washington was a general. Washington, D.C. D.C. Gallaudet is in Washington, D.C. Walk with pride. That's a good thing. It's a very good thing. That is our vocabulary for today. So in the chat, you will find the link for review. I'm going to stop our recording. Hold on.